Hello class, good afternoon or good day. So this is my video presentation in our subject G Electric. And by the way, I am Jerlan Esmikolov, student from Bitibited LX 3C. So by the way, let's talk about gender and globalization. And in gender and globalization, we have the topic of distinctive feminist approach or approaches. When we say distinctive feminist approaches, it is different ways of understanding and solving movements inequality. Each approach has its own focus, like power, rights, or class, but it has a common goals. When we say it has a common goals, it has one main idea where they share one goal, and their common goal is to share goals. Or feminist approach agree that globalization harms women, and they want to show how globalized creates gender injustice and to find ways to fix it. So that is the common goals of distinctive feminist approaches. So when we say globalization, where they talk about globalization harms women, globalization is the process where countries become more connected. When we say countries become connected, it includes trading, culture, politics, and technology, where they trade by other countries, trade to this country, and this country trading to another countries, and also the politics, where they talk politics and how to control the world, especially. And this the one is technology and also the culture. So when we say globalization, it becomes unequal because benefits and power are not shared fairly. So yun yung sinasabi nila na it harms women because yung globalization is unequal and it benefits power not shared fairly. So hindi siya patas or pantay-pantay. So yun yung isa sa mga reason why they believe that globalization harms women, because this topic is about feminist approach, and this is some of the view of the women's or feminists. So when we say distinctive approach, we have three different distinctive approaches, where feminists develop three main approaches to analyze globalization. So number one, we have post-colonial and decolonial feminism. Second, we have ethics of care feminism. And lastly, we have transactional feminism. So this is the topic we're gonna talk about, the three distinctive approaches of feminism. So when we say post-colonial and decolonial feminism, post-colonial are after colonial rule, or is when a country has gained their independence, where natapos na yung pagsasakop sa kanila. Example, the Philippines, where sinakop tayo ng Spanish. Nung nakalaya na tayo, or where nakuha na natin yung independence, yun yung tinatawag na post-colonial. And we have the colonial or decolonial. We're removing the lasting effect of colonialism. So, bakit i-remove yung effect ng colonialism? Number one, bakit? Because they believe that effects of colonialism still exist today through neo-colonialism. So, ano yung neo-colonialism? So, it means the modern control. When we say modern control, it is where a rich country controls a poorer countries' resources or labor through big companies like mining or factory jobs that pay very low wages, which profits go abroad. So next, we have the cultural influence, where Western media, fashion, and language become dominant. So local traditions and language are ignored or seen as less important. Next, bucket, or the second reason, because of unequal power and treatment between countries and cultures. So when we say unequal treatment, so ito yung unfairly, or parang mas low yung pagtingin sa ibang country. This is where Western or global North countries often have more power, so they can influence or control poorer or global South countries in unfair ways. So when we say unfair, where it affects the low wages of workers in factories in poorer countries by the control of powerful countries. And second, we have the big companies taking natural resources without benefits to locals. Next, we have Western culture seen as better local culture ignored. And next, we have decisions made by powerful countries affecting poorer ones without equal voice. So next we have this post-colonial or the decolonial. It aims to expose lasting colonial influence. And then it give voice to indigenous and global South experience, and then question Western superiority in knowledge and cultures. And next we have promote equality and respect for all cultures. And then this first approach, they want to develop respect local tradition and history shaped by colonial past, and then value indigenous knowledge and experience, and reduce Western control over ideas, cultures, and society. Next, so post-colonial and decolonial approach isn't all about for women. So it is all about colonial history, power, and inequality in society. Even though it is including in feminist approach or views of woman, it is not all about woman approach. It including how this affect woman. So shinare lang ito because this is nakaka-affect sa women more strongly, because feminists use it to explain women's experience in that system. So this post-colonial and decolonial process is used to explain woman experience in that system where they feel unfairly and low by and controlled by powerful countries. Next, we have the ethics of care feminism. When we say ethics of care feminism, it means deciding what is right or wrong in caring works, but it focuses more on responsibilities, empathy, and relationships, not just rules. And then, care work, when we say care work, it is about taking care of children, elderly people, sick and disabled individuals, and maintaining household. So, this ethics of queer feminism, this approach argues that globalization often ignores or undervalues care workers, even though it is mostly done by women. And it is very important in society. So, it says dito na yung care or ethics of care is napaka-important siya. And even though it is mostly cared by woman or ginagawa ng mga babae, sinasabi na dito is it mostly ignored or undervalues. Yung mga ginagawa nila is parang hindi binabagyan ng value, even though it is the very important sa ating system or sa ating society. Next, this is the three main issues of that approach or the ethics of care feminism approach. So number one, we have the care work has been greatly affected by globalization. So paano? So dito yung reason. Because globalization increased the demand for women's care work, especially migrant works. So when we say demand, so mostly kinakailangan nila yung mga women for para mag-assist and work sa kanila. So when we say increase the demand, means more people or countries need or want care workers. Example, many families in richer countries hire migrants women from proper countries to care for children, elderly people, and homes. So Next, we have the second issue where care work is often unpaid or low paid because even though society depends on it, which leads to gender, racial, and economic inequality. Next, we have the globalization where it often values profit and economic growth more than people. And it is says that a fair globalization system should prioritize care and human needs, not only profit and economic growth. So sinasabi nito is yung globalization is mas pinabigyan yung halaga yung pera kaysa sa tao because they care more about the pera or economic growth more than people. So sinasabi dito is yung globalization system should prioritize care and human needs, not only profit and economic growth. Next, we have the ethics of care feminism, and it also says that it also rejects that idea that people are completely independent and self-interest. So, dinenay nila yung idea na yung mga tao is independent and kaya nila nang mabuhay na mag-isa. So instead, they believe that people are naturally connected, dependent on each other, and need care throughout life. And then we have the leaders should create policies. So ito yung hinihiling nila sa mga leader. So number one, support caregivers and care works. And yung description is to give better salary, protection, and benefits to caregivers and domestic workers. Second, reduce suffering, where policies should create policies to provide healthcare, child care, and support service to reduce people's suffering. And then third, we have to promote equality and human rights. This is to ensure equal rights and fair treatments regardless of gender, race, or social class. The fourth, we have the focus on human well-being instead of only markets and profits. So, the globalization or the leader should prioritize people's needs and quality of life, not just business, profit, and economic competition. Next, they point out that unpaid or low paid care work can lead to exploitation and inequality around the world. So societies should give more values to support to care work. And then next we have the transnational feminism. This is the last approach of, and then it says that feminist approach that believes globalization has connected women across countries and created opportunities for them to work together against injustice and oppression. The main idea of this approach is that globalization affects women differently depending on their race, class, culture, and location. Because some women may benefit from globalization, while others may suffer from exploitation, inequality, or violence. And this approach, it focused on shared political goals where women from different countries unite for common goals like equality and justice. And then second, we have the fighting injustice and oppression, where they work together against discrimination, violence, exploitation, and unfair treatment. And also they focus on human rights and gender equality, where they support equal rights, opportunities, and protection for all women. And then we have the cooperation across countries, where feminist groups and organizations from different nations help each other to solve global issues together. And here are the supports, where labor unions or group of workers that protects workers' rights, salaries, and working conditions. Next, we have the fair trade organizations, where this group supports fair pay and fair treatment for works and producers. Next, we have the worker cooperatives, where business owned and managed by the workers themselves. And lastly, we have the land reform movements, where movements that fight for fair distribution and ownership of land, especially for poor farmers. Next, let's move to main issue of this topic or this approach. The first issue is the economic injustice or economic justice, where it should fair wages, equal opportunities, and fair treatment in jobs and the community. Second, we have the migration, where people moving to other countries for work, safety, or better opportunities. When we say economic justice in globalization, it says that economic justice is about creating a fair economic system where all people have equal opportunities, fair wages, access to basic needs, and protections from exploitation regardless of gender, race, or social class. And this economic justice, it focus on fair distribution of wealth and resources. Second, equal access to jobs, education, and healthcare. Third, fair treatment of workers. Fourth, reducing poverty and inequality. And lastly, we have protecting vulnerable groups from exploitation. And then, economic justice is connected to women because because right because women who experience. Ito yung mga naranasan ng mga women. So, and economic justice is be for them because these are the some reasons. Number one, we have low wages. Low wages. Second, unsafe working condition. Third, poverty. Fourth, lack of social support. Fifth, unequal opportunities caused by globalization and new liberal policies. And that's all po. Thank you. Hope na marami kang natutunan in this presentation. And bye po.